I know it's been long assumed that those who champion the environment are opposed to nuclear power. But the fact is, even though we've not broken ground on a new nuclear power plant in 30 years, nuclear energy remains our largest source of fuel that produces no carbon emissions. To meet our growing energy needs and prevent the worst consequences of climate change, we'll need to increase our supply of nuclear power. It's that simple.
Énergétique et écologique passe par le nucléaire. Pourvu que l'on progresse sur la gestion des déchets, sur la sûreté, et je vous sais là aussi pleinement mobilisé, l'énergie nucléaire est une énergie décarbonée, une énergie sûre.
You know, the weather is already very uncertain. It just gets worse in a negative way.
Do you think politically nuclear power will ever be something that will be a completely viable solution? Because it solves a lot of the problems.
If people were rational, yes, which means there's like a 30% chance. Nuclear, the current reactors actually have a better safety record than any other source of electricity. They are not the best.
Except that when there is a problem, there's a problem.
Chernobyl is the only case where you have radiation release killing people. Coal kills a lot of people. Natural gas pipelines blow up and kill people. Per kilowatt hour, it's the safest. But I don't care about that. Those reactors can blow up. You can design a reactor that is not capable. That is, there's no high pressure in the reactor anywhere. These existing reactors have lots of high pressure, and they need humans sitting there pushing buttons. You can design a reactor that by multiple physics principles that the radioactive material never leaves the reactor. You have, you know, the heat pool and the low pressure anyway. And so people at least should be open-minded that a next generation reactor can have far better economics, far better safety, you know, no proliferation, no waste problem. But we need lots of innovations to solve climate change. If we have certain other breakthroughs like in energy storage, you can actually create a zero-emission grid without nuclear. But it's way more straightforward. It's way less expensive. It's way quicker if a meaningful part of it is this breakthrough new generation reactor.
When I was younger, in the 60s, and a lot of kids wanted to go into the nuclear energy field. In my alma mater, there were a lot of young boys and girls who wanted to be nuclear energy engineers. That's not so much the case today because this industry has been strangled all too often by government regulations. But we need, as a country, I think, to again bring us to that place where the nuclear energy is a part of a portfolio and to be able to sell it in great truthfulness and honesty about what it can add to America, both from an environmental standpoint and from a security standpoint.
It's like half the people that were out there, you know, saying, you know, no nukes and shut down the power plants are now realizing that some would say, you know, nuclear is the best way to go for energy for the future. So I think it's natural to re-examine your beliefs as you age up.
Senator Booker, I wanted to ask you about nuclear energy. You are a proud proponent of nuclear energy, have argued it's necessary to wean us off the fossil fuel economy. But you have a lot of environmental activists who are scratching their heads at your support for nuclear energy, particularly around the issue of nuclear waste. Here in South Carolina, for example, there are 35 million gallons of nuclear waste being held at a nuclear reserve south of Aiken. Environmental activists have been fighting it for years. You've got Savannah River. And of course, we're talking about communities, primarily low-income communities of color, who are dealing with nuclear waste in their own backyards, from New Mexico to Yucca Mountain to right here. What is your answer to the fact that there is no solution in dealing with nuclear waste?
Well, first of all, you're a little bit mischaracterizing my views. I'm a realist that tells you right now the biggest existential threat to humanity is climate change. 50% of our non-carbon producing power right now is nuclear. And so as some of my other opponents want to do is just get rid of it, it's going to push us back to being more reliant on fossil fuels and make this, our ability to reach our climate goals, impossible. We saw what happened in Vermont when they cut down the Yankee plant there. Their carbon footprint expanded pretty significantly. So I look forward to phasing out nuclear waste and nuclear energy. But to do it right now, when we are in a race and have a 12-year race to meet our climate goals, the damage done to poor and vulnerable communities is significantly worse coming from climate change than it is the crisis of nuclear energy. If you want to weigh your poisons right now, the one that's coming towards us like a barreling freight truck of climate change, the one that my community in Newark is feeling right now because temperature rises, asthma rates that are off the charts. And let me tell you something about asthma. As a guy that knows what it's like in emergency rooms with black children dying at 10 times the rate than white children of asthma complications. So for me, nuclear energy, it's just common sense to me right now.
To build new power plants?
No, well, let's be clear. The nuclear energy of the plants we have now, designed in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, is very different than the new modular nuclear energy plants that are being proposed. Now, those actually have a they can actually take spent fuel rods and re-engage them for usage. The frontiers of nuclear science is not something we should just shut down. We should continue to investigate. Is there going to be eventually a safe way to do this? So I don't mind exploring the future. I'm one of these people that considers myself a futurist. Why? Because you have two choices in life: to let the future happen to you, or to shape the future and make sure it happens in a way that's just. So this, to me, is a very, very simple equation. I've got a 12-year problem to solve. And if anybody wants to get rid of nuclear energy, tell me how you are going to replace 50% of the non-carbon producing power that we would have right now. Because what you're going to do, you're going to send us back to coal and oil, and I refuse to go backwards in the cause of environmental justice.
The first thing we must do is to say goodbye to fossil fuels. In Finland, we will build the world's first fossil-free welfare society. Our long-term energy policy goal is to phase out the use of fossil fuels in the energy sector and move towards an emission-free energy system. In electricity production, we have already taken big steps. In 2018, nearly 80% of Finland's electricity production was based on carbon-free energy sources. 46% of energy was produced by renewables and 32% with nuclear power. However, as a country with cold winters, heating is a big issue that we have to focus on. In the same year, 2018, 53% of district heat was produced with fossil fuels and peat. This is why our government is investing significantly in policy measures to decarbonize our heat production.
Hey guys, so a lot of you have been asking about my makeup routine. The most important thing is to make sure you wash your face really well because we want those pores as clean as we want our electricity. And the best way to get that is to use this cleanser called Stop Shutting Down Nuclear Plants for Christ's Sake. It's carbon-free, emission-free, pollution-free electricity. Then I use this plant-based serum called When a Nuclear Plant is Shut Down, it is replaced by fossil fuels. That's bad. And you know, I just rub this on my face because we all need some goddamn moisture in this quarantine. Then I put some foundation and conceal, like Germany trying to conceal the fact that they still have one of the dirtiest electricities in Europe, probably because they focus on shutting down nuclear instead of coal plants. Now let's do some blush, or you know, we can just naturally blush by thinking of all the countries who already have pretty clean electricity, including France, Sweden, and Finland. They must be doing something right, but God, what could that be? So I have a crazy idea. How about instead of shutting down perfectly fine nuclear plants, we focus on shutting down coal or gas plants, which actually cause climate change. Oh, and don't forget the mascara, because it's not a look without the mascara. Mwah!